Welcome to the Retail is Detail podcast. I'm your host, Jamie Hamer. This is where we go beyond the headlines and get into how great retailers and tech innovators really think, from trading to teams to business building to tech, loyalty, and data. Every Monday afternoon, I talk to the people building, running, and reinventing retail, unpacking what's working, what's changing, and what's next. If you care about the detail of retail, you're in the right place. I'm here with Sam Wright, the founder of Blink SEO and Macalytics software. Sam, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thanks, Jamie. Great to be here.
So, Sam, you've been in e-commerce since 2002 and SEO since 2007. So before all this was cool. Please, can you make SEO exciting for me?
I mean, I could try. That's not an easy ask. Funnily enough, I've joked about this before on calls. I meet someone for the first time, and very often I will say, no one wants to speak to an SEO agency because trust in this industry is pretty low. So we've got a bit of a barrier to get over there, just by being in this industry.
How do you do that?
That's a good question. That is a good question. I think hopefully something that ties in with the themes of this podcast, which is, attention to detail, thoroughness, and also the technology side as well.
So we'll come back onto that. But what is the first e-commerce sale that you ever helped with?
My introduction to e-commerce was probably working on eBay in 99, 2000 to run a record store. That was my very first business.
Nice.
I came into e-commerce that way, basically selling secondhand records on eBay. Then Napster came along. That's how old I am, and killed that business. So the appetite for secondhand CDs and records just disappeared. And then I studied creative writing at university, and then moved into publishing. And that was my kind of entry into the SEO world, mainly from a kind of publishing background.
Cool. Awesome. So we're talking records on eBay and now a huge variety. What's the strangest product category you've ever had to optimize for?
So we've done quite a lot in the adult space because, if you can't do ads, then organic can be a good channel. So there's been some interesting adult projects that we've worked on that maybe I can't go into too much detail here.
No worries. I mean, from our side, one of the first things we were offered to insure from a Shopify store was quite a large health-based vibrator company. But we determined with our insurer, there's very little you can insure them against. A little bit of accidental damage, but they're not stolen very often.
No, I can imagine.
Anyway, so moving on to Blink. So Blink's been on a 4-day work week since 2018. How did you make that decision, and how does Friday Sam spend his extra day?
So it was quite an easy decision at the time. There was only 4 or 5 of us in the business, and it was one of those things where we found energy levels on a Friday afternoon was pretty low. And I saw a study from a company in Canada I can't remember the name now. It might come to me later, where they were trialing the 4-day week and found it to be great for output. And I think we were just at the perfect size to implement it. It didn't really take much. We just made a decision. We did it the next month. We updated our clients, said what we were doing, and it stuck pretty much immediately. And it's just something that's completely ingrained in the business now.
Nice. So would you recommend it to any business?
I would recommend it to service and knowledge-based businesses. It's easy. I say easy. It's much easier. Obviously, if you're running a restaurant or something like that, it's going to be a bit more complicated. If you need boots on the ground at certain times, then I wish I had the answer to that, but I'm afraid I don't. If you're in the service space, we found it to be a really, really great move. The interesting thing is now lots of people do it, and it doesn't make it so special anymore.
Yeah, we've had John Redmond of Ask Bosco and Moto 25 who does a similar thing, but says he as the founder will often work longer. Is that the same for you? What do you do on Fridays?
I mean, because we've got two areas to the business. We've got the agency side and we've got the technology side. There's a lot going on. So I'm not really doing 4 days at the moment, but it's not really for founders.
Yeah,
That's not how it works.
that's very noble. So you built this more SaaS side of the business, the software, Macaroni, out of agency pain points. Did you always plan to be a product and SaaS founder as well as a service founder, or was this a gradual transition?
I think in the agency space, once you've been doing it for a while, you seem to either go down the setting up a course route or setting up a SaaS. It's just what everybody does.
Yeah.
And we ended up in the SaaS space. I think it did quite naturally evolve out of the problems that we were facing. And maybe for some context here, like we specialize in working with large catalog Shopify stores. So stores with lots of products. The difference about those kinds of stores is like the buying journey is very much based on attributes and taxonomy and structure and things like that. And those are data problems that you can solve with, data science, or you can make those processes a lot easier. And then when it comes to the implementation of it, we found ourselves needing to do software engineering stuff to get the stuff, done. So turning that into a SaaS kind of felt like a sensible step.
How's it gone?
Yeah, it's good. This is something that we need to get better at communicating, is the relationship between all of the things that are going on in the business. So we have Macaroni, which effectively is the tooling that we use internally. So it's a big data pipeline for Search Console data. It allows us to implement work across large catalog stores quite quickly because it has a Shopify connector and things. And it's also used by a number of other agencies and freelancers as well. But we also have our public-facing app, which is Macalytics. So this is an app that went live a couple of weeks ago on the Shopify App Store. It pulls Search Console data directly into Shopify. So the difference is it's all modeled for Shopify. So you can see your products and collections are getting traffic rather than having to unpick all of that. Because other kind of apps, similar apps, are not e-commerce specific or not Shopify specific. So over time, we'll be moving more features from Macaroni into Macalytics. But I need to do some content and a bit of explaining about this relationship between the three areas. So this is quite good timing.
Okay, cool. Well, so as I'm understanding it, you've got the SEO focused agency Blink. You've got the ability to help with businesses generally through Macaroni software, but then it's self-serve for larger Shopify websites, which is the niche you're most focused on.
It's like Macalytics really can be used by anybody that's interested in Search Console data and Shopify. Even a smaller store can get some insights out. Like a lot of the value in SEO work is around the amount of activity that you can do, and that's where we see a lot of the potential of the larger catalog stores.
Okay, cool. And you've honed your niche, right? I saw a post on this from you yesterday on LinkedIn. You really you want to focus only on large catalog Shopify stores, or the vast majority on there. Why do you think that niching, if you want to call it that, is so important? And how long did that process of defining that take for you?
So I think it's incredibly important, and probably more so for SEO than any other marketing channel. And the reason for that is, again, like with Google Ads, for example, you can make changes in platform. You can just go and run your campaign through Google Ads. You might not necessarily even touch the site. Probably better if you do for various reasons, but you don't necessarily have to. Whereas SEO is about implementation. Nothing really makes a difference until you make a change to the website. So what we found is, first of all, we started focusing on a single platform to make that easier. But then we found the work that really resonated. And again, it's this kind of, with larger catalogs, the challenge they have is around things like taxonomy, and that becomes a scalable challenge. Maybe one way to think about it is, when Shopify first came along, everybody knew it as hero brands, maybe in CPG with a few products, and the model was pushing Facebook ads. And that's kind of how Shopify really kind of got a foothold. But those are very different marketing challenges to a large catalogue where the buying journey is all about filtering and comparing and stuff like that. And again, that's where we found that we could make the biggest difference through work that's kind of repeatable as well.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I'm a big fan of the idea of a wicked problem. If you haven't heard of it, it's quite simple. It's a problem that's constantly shifting. You solve one bit of it and something else comes along. And like SEO is very much like that. And the way you solve a wicked problem, or try to, is by breaking it down into smaller pieces until you've got something a bit more, a bit easier to swallow, as it were.
Yeah. Do you know why it's called a wicked problem?
I can't remember. It's not called a fun problem, that's for sure. So I'm assuming it's a wicked problem because it's tough to deal with.
Okay. So we can treat SEO like a wicked problem in the sense that there's a lot of different components, a lot of things you need to get right, and all of them need to be true for you to get the benefit.
Yeah, exactly. So if we're adding different platforms like Magento and different business models on top of that, you end up with a whole mass of wicked problems interrelating with each other. And I think this is why comes to the crux of why there's not a lot of trust in our industry, because people try and apply these tactics for different areas to other businesses, and it just doesn't work. So, and that's because a lot of people haven't got that experience of working across so many different things until they find something that actually works.
Okay, so you'd recommend going with Blink SEO and Macaroni Software and Macalytics because they are focused on the niche where you know you can do everything you need to do to make a difference.
Yeah, I think so. Like, we understand the businesses that we work with inside. I know everybody says from a marketing agency background, there's these tropes, isn't there? Oh, we take time to understand your business. We're data driven. And I'm also aware that what I'm talking about kind of roughly falls into those buckets, but like hopefully at a much, deeper level. I mean, we don't need to take time to understand a business because we deal with the same ones inside out. And like a concept I always come back to is, I think people segment their businesses in the wrong way by vertical. So lots of people think of like beauty as a sector, but within that you've got small catalog subscription and then large catalog retail, and they're completely different challenges. Like from a technical and tactical marketing perspective, anyway. So if you're a D2C beauty brand on a subscription basis with like 5 SKUs, your marketing strategy is going to be positioning based, like you're a challenger, like very, very creative. Whereas if you're a retailer with 10,000 SKUs, it's about helping someone find exactly the product that they're looking for. And you just approach those challenges in completely different ways.
Okay. And when was there a light bulb moment where you realized structure and taxonomy was where SEO magic happens?
I think like right from the beginning, we knew that like, you organize pages in the right way and it works. I think it was probably when we really started drilling down on Shopify and then understanding the limits of how Shopify structures products and collections that it all started to click. The great thing about Shopify is it's such a stable platform, like compared to other ones like Magento or WooCommerce or things like, if a Magento site has been up for 10 years, you've got that kind of inherent technical debt in there that can make something like SEO quite challenging. It's like another wicked problem on top of the whole thing. And it's one also that's really hard to make repeatable because it's so, like there's so much going on. Whereas we found with Shopify, it's basically like most stores are pretty solid, and it becomes how can you grow them as quickly as possible. And the thing that was holding them back most of the time is the structure. That was the kind of like the light bulb moment, if there was one.
And within your niche, within this Shopify, like helping with these specific taxonomies that you're expert on, how much of a difference can this make?
So I think this touches on one of the one important point, and that is measuring this is really difficult because tracking on Shopify is abysmal. And I kind of mean that from like the loss of trust in GA4 since it rolled out is pretty big.
Yep.
It's not uncommon to speak to a Shopify brand, and I'm sure there are plenty listening to this, and they think, I don't even look at GA4 anymore because I don't trust the data. And that is a kind of big hurdle for us because GA4 is really the only place that you can get any view on organic revenue.
Right.
So kind of measuring the impact, we have to cross that hurdle first. We can kind of estimate, like with a degree of confidence, I can say that for a large catalogue store, in 250 products plus, where we know that buying journey is around filtering, comparing, etc., probably 20% of current revenue is organic. And GA4 might show it at 8-10% because of tracking problems and cookie consent and whatever. But we can fix those and kind of model it on that basis. So your revenue will be about 20% in that particular for that particular business type. And then we would say, expanding out the taxonomy, we would typically expect to see a 100% increase in that figure by month 12. So scaling it up to that. So effectively, what we're saying is a 20% increase on the bottom line within 12 months.
The bottom line, not just the top line organic sales.
Yeah. So a 20% overall increase. Yeah.
Cool. I mean, that sounds highly compelling. I suppose it might depend on the state of the SEO to begin with.
By working with the same kind of businesses, like we've just reduced the amount of variables, so we can, like, it's quite easy to see the patterns. And also, we wouldn't take on a brand that we didn't have that kind of confidence that we're seeing those signals that this would work. So it's one of those things. It's very much not for everybody, like the agency side of the business, but we do have that real confidence in the projects that we do work, that we do take on, that we can achieve those results.
So, well, without naming names, can you give me an example of a retailer who might have wanted to work with you, but you said no because it's just not your wheelhouse? Do you have that kind of discipline?
I can't name names, but we say all the time, because it's not the right platform. People come to us with like a WooCommerce project, for example, and on occasion we will take them on, but I think like the unit economics of it don't work a lot of the time because we've built all of this efficiency around it. We'd have to charge like 4 times as much, and it just doesn't really, like, as part of our review process, we go into cost of goods sold quite a lot. And if we can't demonstrate that return, then it's just,
You mentioned that using macaroni software has made your team at Blink SEO 20 times as productive. Is that a real number? 20 times as productive? And
yes, I'd say so. One example of kind of how macaroni works is it does a lot of the best practice SEO stuff that you would do by hand. So once you've assigned a keyword to a page, it will go and scrape the HTML, like find all the places you could build an internal link to it. Say that the keyword's missing from a piece of content on the page. It would write the content as well. We've got an AI model that looks at existing site content and things. But then you can implement it straight away. So like a good example is, like, on a collection or category page, quite often they're missing description copy at the top. So a search engine needs a bit of context about what the page is about, makes ads work better and all kinds of other stuff. But the process of identifying on a large store all of the pages that are missing the description copy, having that relationship between the keyword and the content, so you can drop it in, writing it, proofing it, going through, uploading it, saving it, then logging it, so you've got some kind of record of what you've done. That takes 20 minutes per page. But once a keyword's mapped, that can be done in less than a minute. There's plenty of examples of similar things like that.
Can you talk to me about how you convince founders or owners of retail businesses to pay attention to SEO when there are more shiny things like PPC and keywords? What are the really key points you make? Pay attention.
So I think there's two things, like one of which we've discussed is, it's quite a dependable way of adding an extra 20%, especially if you haven't done it. And most people aren't doing it at the moment for various reasons. But I also think a lot of the work that we do is really preparing us for that kind of next stage in the buying journey. AI is such a hot subject at the moment. And it genuinely feels to us like a lot of the work that we do around taxonomy and structure it's becoming more relevant because of this upcoming shift.
Okay, so AI is going to make the type of SEO work you do more relevant rather than replacing it.
Oh, yeah, 100%, 100%. And I mean that we're already seeing things like scaling out a taxonomy basically means building collections, sub-collections, categories, subcategories, going quite deep in that kind of thing. We see like that increases the amount of places that you can be found in AI. It helps AI understand what your products are about. But we're going quite deep into that in terms of like product data structure as well. Maybe one way to think about it is for a lot of retailers, especially particularly ones with large catalogs, the business really is a data feed, especially if you're not manufacturing your own products. Like your business is really your data feed. And AI gives us an opportunity to or an incentive to optimize earlier on. I mean by that is building out richer product attributes, going deeper in your data. And then, again, I don't want to get too kind of like far future or futurologist on this.
No, absolutely. Please do.
It's quite easy
Retail
to
Tech
see.
and Innovation podcast.
Yes. Yeah, there we go. Okay, I'll feel better now.
Yeah.
It's not hard to see that we're heading to a future where people may not touch your website when in the buying journey. We're already seeing like shopping results in AI, and they're pushing you to cart at the moment. But we know ChatGPT and Shopify are working on an integration, direct checkout.
Yep.
So at that point, kind of, if you are treating your business as a feed of data, where the end point could be the Shopify store, could be AI, could be your shopping feeds, all kinds of stuff. Like you kind of want to optimize. Well, there's two things. You want to optimize earlier in the journey, and you do that by richer product attributes. But then also your data needs to reflect how people are searching. And I think this is an example that I come back to quite a lot is when ChatGPT announced its shopping integration, they used an example from DeLonghi. And it's someone searching, I'm looking for the best coffee machine under $200 that captures the taste of coffee in Italy. So if we break that search down, I think it's quite easy to see the direction things are going. We've got our base attributes of product, which is a coffee machine. We've got price, which is under $200. But then the emotional, contextual, persona-led attributes of the type of coffee in Italy. And that's how people are going to be searching. I don't know if you use ChatGPT to look for stuff, but you don't just go, you go richer and deeper and more conversational in what you're looking for.
I have to admit, I've built websites with it, but yet to use it for shopping. I'm sure all that's coming. Awesome. So do you think we'll see Google homepage for shopping disappear in the next 5 years?
Sorry?
Do you think Google homepage for shopping, it's going to disappear in the next 5 years? Is AI search just better, LLMs?
I'm not sure what the timeline's going to be. What I'm certain is Google search results as they are now will not look the same in 5 years. We are seeing a massive shift. How that pans out over the next 5 years, what the kind of gradient or how steep it is, I don't know. I think for the way I come back to this, because I've been doing this a long time, is taking the lessons from what we saw when Facebook ads first came out. Really, I don't think we've seen a new acquisition channel, like a new customer acquisition channel, which really worked since like Meta ads or Facebook as it was then. The early adopters on Facebook were just people that did it well. Now it takes a completely different strategy. It's all very creative focused and, so much more brand stuff. Whereas in the early days, just being able to run the mechanics of a campaign was enough.
Right.
And I think we might see that early adopter stage with with AI. Basically, that's kind of what we're betting on.
Okay, makes sense. And what do you see as the key differences between traditional SEO and LLMO, if we're calling that?
I mean, there's so many similarities in. I think it's just the execution stuff becomes a little bit more refined. One example is like FAQ content's always been useful for SEO.
Mhm.
But now we have knowledge base on Shopify, which pushes FAQ content into AI results, and then also is used for kind of like connecting to pushing data into the MCPs. So then all of a sudden you've got a process which is like, oh yeah, but at the moment knowledge base only pushes that information into AI, so it doesn't live on your site anywhere. So we just built a very simple module that connects the two things up. So if you publish FAQ content in knowledge base, it publishes it on your site as well. Then it can be
Mhm.
picked up by Google's AI search result. So a lot of the principles are exactly the same. It's just a
Right.
bit of a refinement in how you execute on it. It's all changing very fast and stuff, but really like those kind of principles are going to be pretty
And I
robust.
guess you have to be a little careful not to over-optimize for what still must be a relatively small percentage of search results.
Yeah, absolutely. For lots of clients, we're seeing it on the same level as Yahoo or Yandex.
That's very
Um,
helpful.
but at the same time, what I will say is that the tracking integration between ChatGPT and shopping looks to be really bad. Like quite often, ChatGPT will suggest a product link and it's a 404. Or, like there's not that really tight relationship between someone actually buying or clicking in ChatGPT and it being reflected in GA4. So the numbers are probably more than that. And people are doing a lot more research in ChatGPT and then searching directly. Like the direction of it all is pretty clear, even if you can't like measure it in a really granular way.
Yeah, as big as Yahoo isn't small, and then there's a halo effect of how much it's actually being used. That's really
Exactly.
okay. So it's something you need to take action on now if you're a
Uh,
big brand.
a lot of the conversations I have with this are, what can you do now that sets you up in the best way for the future? And a lot of that comes down to things like making sure your product data is really good, and making sure that your content is organized in a clean, consistent way. Because then it doesn't matter how you distribute it, you've got it. Whether you map it to column A or column B doesn't really matter. So that's kind of that's the way we're thinking about it. And a lot of this stuff is just good practice anyway.
Yeah, totally. Awesome. So, um, while structure and taxonomy will win in the long run, obviously people love growth hacks. What's the most overhyped growth hack you've ever seen?
Overhyped, as in people
Uh,
talk about it, but it doesn't work.
yes.
That's a good one. I mean, the whole link building thing, I dislike it so much. I've engineered an entire business where we basically don't have to do it.
Every
And
business needs a villain, right?
yeah, and I think it's like, right, link building absolutely works for lots of businesses, but it depends on their type. If you're a SaaS brand and you're in a very competitive, you've got like 10 competitors all doing very, very similar things and your sites are all really similar, like then the
Mm,
link stuff really can help. Like if you're in that kind of space.
yeah.
But what we find is the kind of larger catalog stores just scaling out, like you just don't really need it. But that doesn't stop people trying to, again, like, because they don't understand the different combinations of business type and strategy, it doesn't stop people pitching that kind of thing to these businesses.
It isn't relevant for most people, but it still gets pitched a lot.
Yeah. Well, I definitely think if you're a Shopify store with like 1,000 products doing 5 million a year, it's probably not going to be the thing that gets you that 20% uplift year on year. So like all of the caveats that I have around this stuff are based on like this is the one thing, like the one area that we know quite well.
Yeah. Yeah. You can do that. No, and this may or may not be able to do that at significantly more cost and complexity.
Yeah, exactly. One of those things that's just a roll of the dice.
Let's say you inherit this 5 billion Shopify brand with 1,000 SKUs and everything's a complete mess. So it's amazing. They managed to do 5 million anyway. The product must be fantastic.
Yeah.
You're given 100K in a year to sort everything out. How do you allocate that budget? Presumably some being to macaroni slash Blink, but then how else would you allocate it? What else would you do?
We could handle the structure, taxonomy, the organization of the site. Absolutely fine. If everything's a real mess, a lot of the problems are going to be solved long-term by good product merchandising, good product. I'd want a product team I'd basically, whatever money's left, I would be pushing it into a team that understands that side of things.
Okay, so it's SEO and the product itself would be what carries the day.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a simple formula for success.
Well, like I think particularly on large catalog stores, the teams that we work with that are really good are ones that understand. They've got that really tight understanding of their sell-through rate, and from the very start of product development, what's going to work or what's not, and how it ties in with everything. So that's the bit. Like when we work with teams like that, we know everything goes smoothly.
Yeah, nice. And obviously you've seen like huge product catalogs and retailers where such is chaos. What's your one golden rule for product categorization?
So everything's easier with good data hygiene. So one thing that we see quite a lot is like inconsistent tagging. I think one of the things that AI is kind of exposing is why this stuff is important. Like if you go to a store with 1,000 products and say your product data is a bit of a mess, like lots of teams go, yeah, I know. It's just one of those things that we need to do. But I think when you start tying it to business performance, then all of a sudden it starts to make a bit more sense. And kind of what that means is if your product data isn't great, like your categorization isn't poor. Actually, I was speaking to our team about like some good examples of things they've seen over the years where things have gone particularly wrong. And Subash, one of our engineers, came up with a good one when he was working with a brand, a large retail chain. They found that they had a whole section of products, like I think it was shoes, like thousands and thousands of them that they didn't know they had until the engineers said, "Hey, there's all this stuff here." So they were in the inventory database, but not in the store. They were never sold, like for a year. And that's one of those things where you flick a switch and all of a sudden you've potentially increased revenue by X% because your catalog's got so much bigger. So yes, data hygiene is a good thing.
Amazing. I'm trying to avoid shoe-led puns. Shoe in could make them better healed, that sort of thing.
Foot in mouth.
Sorry?
Foot in mouth, maybe.
Lovely. So we're going to move on to the questions we ask all of our guests. And I think these will be really pertinent to what we've been talking about. But, obviously you could have done a lot of things with your career and you've chosen to go into a very specific part of helping retailers to be successful. But what attracted you to retail in the first place? What is the detail of retail that you like the most?
Well, detail is good. We like detail. We're probably like a business of horrible overthinkers in that sense. I find one of the reasons we specialized is that kind of sense of mastery that you get by going really deep in something is the thing that's satisfying. And I think that's kind of led us in this direction of going into large catalog, Shopify stores, taxonomy data, all of that stuff. Hopefully that helps. That some way answers that question.
Okay, so it's actually, you've looked for the most detailed part of retail because of your love of detail.
Yeah. I've never thought about it that way, but maybe it's just called to us and we've ended up here.
What's the detail of retail you'd most want to change?
Tracking, 100%. I used to say that 8 out of 10 Shopify stores that we look at has a problem with tracking. It's as close to 10 out of 10 at the moment. Like I can pretty much say what the data looks like now, just without having access to GA4. In terms of the percentages and like trends. this is kind of an example of another wicked problem that sits on top of SEO that makes everything much more complicated. And I think like the kind of like literacy and understanding of this stuff in the industry is not great either. Like most Shopify brands aren't aware that they have a tracking problem,
Right.
or that when it comes to GA4. And then kind of what happens is they stop trusting GA4. So they rely on in-platform metrics like Google ads and Facebook ads, which obviously only tells you part of the story. And like it can be really, really easy to optimize for performance in Google ads and Meta ads at the detriment of the overall business. So tracking is like the headline thing for us.
Interesting. So people are either taking their Google Analytics as gospel, which is incorrect, or they're optimizing for something which doesn't optimize for their business. Cynically, do you think that could be intentional by Google?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Okay. Let's not be cynical. Let's be real. Okay, cool.
And
so,
also a lot of agencies as well. It's quite like, I am constantly astounded by like well-established agencies that are just pumping loads of money into brand traffic and then making it look like their ads are performing incredibly well. Like that stuff is still happening at quite a big scale. And it's the same with Facebook ads as well. And it all creates this big sense of mistrust in the industry as well, which I'm not a fan of.
And do you have any advice or help for this tracking problem?
So, I mean, the problem is that it changes so often. Like, it used to be, like, when we were in the world of universal analytics, you kind of set it up most of the time and, you could trust it for X period of, when you looked year on year, you were comparing apples to apples. What we're seeing in GA4 is that doesn't, that's not the case. Every few months, something happens. And particularly when you combine that with Shopify as well. And it creates that shifting problem. So in terms of what we recommend, like quite often it is just having someone that understands this stuff, look at it. There's a lot of tracking specialists I can recommend. There's some really, really good people in the industry, but it comes to one of those things that it's like, it's not a line item that people are expecting a lot of the time. But good data quality will make all of your campaigns work better. So our kind of usual approach to it is recommend server-side tracking. So I'm a big fan of Addingwell and Elevar. They're kind of well-known solutions in this space. But then they need to be configured to work with a cookie consent solution as well, which is the bit that most people get wrong. So there's Pandectes, Cookiebot, and something like that. But the problem is then you get this combination of, like, you've got a whole tech stack then. And who looks at that tech stack? Who manages that? And that's where the gap is. Because how Cookiebot talks to Elevar or Pandectes talks to Addingwell, like someone needs to own that and make sure that it all kind of sits together. And that's where like a good tracking specialist, that's what their role is essentially.
So is there a gap in the market for a more holistic tracking SaaS tool here, or more vertically integrated?
Yeah, and I think there are people that are doing it vertically integrated, but they do it part of a wider solution. And then what you end up with is having to learn a whole new analytics platform or something like that on top. And who's got time to do that? So it's one of those things that's like for business owners, I genuinely feel bad because it is a tricky problem. And it's not one that's kind of like immediately apparent. And also a lot of tracking specialists aren't very good as well. So you need to find someone that knows what they're talking about.
That is, I can see why that would be a frustrating deal you'd like to change, and something we'll delve into more in future episodes. Exactly. What is your most controversial prediction for the future of retail?
I'm not sure how controversial it is, but probably one that I've mentioned before is this idea that websites are not necessarily going to become the future of e-commerce. The whole concept of a business as a data feed, I think, is maybe controversial in some sectors. or some areas, but I'd probably say that would be the one I would highlight here.
Okay, awesome. And what is your craziest story so far from the, whether it's the original eBay days or Blink or Macaroni? What's your wildest story?
It's probably not that jaw-dropping, but I have worked on several projects, at least 3, where the business has either failed or gone bankrupt or had to pivot pretty quickly because of the decision to go headless.
Okay.
And this is not an attack on people that understand headless. There are some good people doing it. But what I've seen is agencies try and do headless when they don't understand it in and out, and then kill a project basically. Things like not being able to run ads for 3 months because they don't understand how the tracking works on a headless build, that kind of stuff. So that, maybe not that exciting in terms of the craziness factor, but it's always something that stood out to me.
Just watch out to brands that going headless will probably cause you headaches you're not anticipating.
Well, I think it's more like the partners that you choose, incredibly important. And I know this might kind of sound like I'm trying to drill the point home that we're specialists, but it is like if someone can't evidence that they've done something exactly like what you're looking for to a high standard, I would be really, really cautious, especially when it's a huge project like that.
It just sounds like life advice for any service you're building.
Yeah.
Don't be the first.
Yeah, you wouldn't go to a builder that's never built a house, would you?
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Sam Wright, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
That's it for today's episode of Retail is Detail. This episode was brought to you by Loxa, the Klarna for insurance, protecting every retail customer everywhere. We support retailers in offering product protection on all major platforms, online and in-store, on all insurable categories. Visit loxacover.com to find out more. You can catch previous episodes on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts, or at retailersdetailpodcast.com. I've been your host, Jamie Hamer. Thanks for listening, and see you next Monday.